During my dad's funeral, my best friend leaned in and whispered, "So, how does it feel knowing your dad's going to hell?" I didn't even think. My hand connected with her cheek before the words fully registered. She stumbled back into the flower arrangement, lilies shaking as gasps rippled through the funeral home. "What is wrong with you?" I shouted, my voice echoing off the quiet walls. Every head in the room turned. Maya held her face, eyes glassy, not from pain, but something else. Pity? Fear? "It seems," she said softly, "you don't know about your father's double life." My stomach dropped. "What are you talking about?" That's when I noticed it. No one would meet my eyes. My aunt suddenly became fascinated with her phone screen. My cousins huddled together whispering. Even the funeral director wore that tight, uncomfortable smile like he'd walked in on something private. The whole room felt thick, heavy, like everyone was carrying the same secret, and I was the only one left out. I grabbed Maya's arm and pulled her into the hallway. "Tell me what my dad did, right now." She shook her head, pressing her lips together. "I don't even want to say it. Just speaking it feels sinful. What he did, it's not right." We had been best friends since first grade. She'd spent half her childhood at my house. My dad had driven us to school, made Saturday morning pancakes, taught us both how to ride bikes without training wheels. What could he have possibly done that was so evil she thought repeating it would damn her soul? I stormed back inside and found my mom near the guest book, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. "Mom, what is everyone talking about? What did Dad do?" Her face crumpled instantly. Fresh tears streamed down her cheeks. "It's disgusting," she whispered. "I can't even think about it." She hurried toward the restroom before I could stop her. I felt like I was losing my mind. Outside, my Uncle David stood smoking with a few relatives. He'd been Dad's brother and best friend. If anyone would defend him, it would be him. "Uncle David, please. What is going on?" He didn't look at me, just stared at the pavement. "I don't know if I can even call him my brother anymore," he muttered. "What he did goes against everything we believe in." He dropped his cigarette and crushed it under his shoe, then walked back inside without another word. I was desperate now. My father was lying in a casket 10 feet away, and everyone was acting like he'd been exposed as some kind of monster. What secret could be so unforgivable that his own brother disowned him? I found my grandmother sitting on a bench outside, smoking and scrolling through her phone like this was any ordinary Tuesday. "Grandma, please," I begged. "Everyone's acting like Dad did something horrible, but no one will tell me what." She took a long drag and exhaled slowly. "You really don't know?" she asked. "No," she snorted. "After your mother cheated on him and left, your dad got drunk one night. Real drunk. Went to some party with his buddies." My heart started pounding. Was this about a fight? A crime? Something violent? She turned her phone toward me. It was a video. My dad was clearly drunk, laughing too loud, arms slung around his friends, music blaring in the background. At one point, he grabbed his best friend, Adrian, pulled him in, and planted a sloppy, exaggerated kiss on his lips. "You're my favorite human," he shouted into the camera. The video ended with everyone laughing. "That's it?" I asked. Grandma rolled her eyes. "Apparently, that little moment means he's living in eternal damnation." I stared at the screen. That was the scandal. That was the unforgivable sin. A drunk, affectionate kiss between best friends at a party. Inside that building, people were whispering like he'd committed something monstrous. And suddenly, I didn't feel shame. I felt furious. Not embarrassed, not confused, furious. All morning, I had been swallowing condolences like chalk. He was such a good man. He loved you so much. He's in a better place. And the entire time, apparently, half the room had been mentally sentencing him to eternal damnation over a 10-second video. I handed Grandma's phone back to her. "That's it?" I asked again. Like maybe if I said it enough, it would morph into something logical. She flicked ash onto the pavement. "That's it. Small town minds. Big reactions." I looked back at the funeral home doors. Through the glass, I could see silhouettes shifting. People clumped together in little judgment circles. "He kissed his best friend," I said flatly. "He was drunk and dramatic," she corrected. "Your father cried at dog food commercials." And that was true. He did. A memory flashed in my head. Dad standing in the kitchen, wooden spoon in hand, fake slow dancing with me while pasta boiled over. Him shouting off-key lyrics to old songs. Him squeezing Uncle David's shoulders and saying, "Love you, man," every single time they parted. He wasn't a monster. He was soft. And apparently that was the crime. I pushed through the doors back into the viewing room before I could second-guess myself. The whispering didn't even try to hide this time. It just shifted, like a flock of birds adjusting direction. Maya stood near the front, arms crossed protectively over herself. I walked straight toward her. "So that's it?" I said loudly. "That's the secret?" Her jaw tightened. "You saw it?" "Yes. I saw a drunk man kiss his friend and tell him he loved him." "It's not natural," she snapped, the pity gone now. "You don't just do that unless..." "Unless what?" I challenged. She hesitated. The room felt like it was holding its breath. "Unless he had tendencies," she finished quietly. There it was, the word she didn't say, the implication hanging in the air like smoke. I laughed. It wasn't a happy sound. It startled even me. You think that means he's going to hell? I asked. For kissing someone while drunk? It's a sin, one of my cousins muttered from somewhere behind her. I turned slowly. So is gossip. Silence. My mom re-emerged from the hallway bathroom, eyes red and swollen. Please, she whispered. Not today. Why not today? I asked. My voice cracked, but I didn't care. They picked today. My Uncle David stepped forward, jaw clenched. We're just concerned about what it represents. What does it represent? I demanded. That maybe he wasn't who we thought he was. I looked at the casket. My dad's hands were folded neatly over his chest. The funeral home had done their best to smooth out the lines illness had carved into his face. He looked smaller somehow, quiet. He was exactly who he was, I said. He was kind. He showed up. He loved people loudly. That kind of love is dangerous, Maya said. No, I shot back. Judgment is dangerous. The funeral director cleared his throat nervously near the wall like he wanted to evaporate. I stepped closer to the casket. Did any of you see him cheat? I asked the room. No one answered. Did he hurt anyone? Silence. Did he abandon his family? My mom inhaled sharply at that, but said nothing. He got drunk after his wife left him, I continued. He acted stupid at a party. He kissed his best friend. And somehow that erases everything good he ever did. No one would look at me now. Maya's voice softened again. I just don't want you defending something that could damn your soul too. And that did it. I walked back toward her slowly. You think God is up there? I said quietly, rewinding a blurry Facebook video and going, Yep, that's the one. Eternal fire. Her lips pressed into a thin line. My dad spent his entire life helping people, I continued. He coached your little brother's soccer team for free when your mom couldn't afford the fees. He fixed Mrs. Donnelly's roof after the storm. He drove you to school for years. Her eyes flickered. You ate pancakes in our kitchen every Saturday for 10 years, I said. And now you're comfortable saying he's in hell? The room felt different now, less certain. Maya swallowed. It's what we were taught. Then maybe what we were taught is wrong. That landed harder than the slap. My uncle shook his head. You're emotional. Yes, I said. My father is dead. Grandma pushed through the doors at that moment like a general entering a battlefield. For heaven's sake, she announced. If kissing your best friend when you're drunk sends you to hell, this entire family is in trouble. A few people actually snorted before catching themselves. She pointed her cigarette, still lit, at Uncle David. Didn't you streak through a football game in '82? That's different, he muttered. Is it? She asked sweetly. The tension cracked just slightly. I walked up to the front of the room. I'm going to say something, I announced. And then we can either continue this funeral like adults, or you can all leave. No one moved. My dad loved people, I said. He wasn't ashamed of affection. He didn't ration it out based on who was watching. I looked at Adrian, my dad's best friend, standing near the back. His eyes were red, not from scandal, but from grief. Did that kiss mean something romantic? I asked him directly. Adrian shook his head, voice breaking. He was drunk and sentimental. He told everyone he loved them that night, even the bartender. A few uneasy chuckles. He was hurting, Adrian continued. Your mom had just left. He felt like he'd failed. I think he just needed to feel connected to someone. The word failed echoed. My anger shifted shape slightly. Dad had never told me he felt that way. He called me the next morning, Adrian said. Mortified. Said, please tell me I didn't propose to anyone. More laughter now. Reluctant but real. And for the record, Adrian added, I don't think a 10-second kiss outweighs 47 years of being a decent human being. Silence again, but softer. I took a deep breath. If your faith is so fragile that a drunk kiss destroys it, I said gently. That's not on my dad. My mom stepped forward slowly. Her voice trembled. I was angry when I saw the video, she admitted. Not because of the kiss, because it was proof he was spiraling and I wasn't there to help him. That was the first honest thing anyone had said all day. I left, she continued quietly, and I've been carrying that guilt. It was easier to redirect it. The room shifted again. Uncle David rubbed his face. We don't understand that kind of thing. You don't have to understand it, I replied. You just have to stop turning it into something evil. Maya looked smaller now. I thought I was protecting you, she said. From what? I asked. She didn't answer. I turned back toward the casket. You don't get to rewrite him, I said to the room. You don't get to take one messy human moment and build a bonfire out of it. Grandma clapped once, loud. Can we bury the man now? She asked. And strangely, that broke the spell. People shifted back into their roles, mourners instead of judges. The whispers died down. Adrian stepped forward and placed his hand gently on the casket. Love you, brother, he whispered. And this time, no one flinched. As the service resumed, I felt something steady settle inside me. Not just grief, resolve. Afterward, as people filtered out, Maya lingered. I'm sorry, she said finally, for how I said it. That's a start, I replied. She hesitated. Do you really think he's okay? I looked up at the ceiling. I think, I said slowly, if there is a heaven, it's not threatened by affection. She nodded, uncertain but quieter. When everyone was gone, I stood alone beside the casket. You really couldn't just stick to embarrassing dad jokes, huh? I murmured. I imagined him grinning, shrugging. Love you, kid. The scandal, the whispers, the judgment. None of it felt as loud anymore. What felt loud was the memory of him in the kitchen, twirling me around to music that was slightly offbeat. Him squeezing people too tight. Him saying I love you without checking who was listening. If that was a sin, it was one I was willing to inherit. As they closed the casket, I didn't feel shame. I felt proud. And if anyone had a problem with that, they could take it up with him themselves. The casket clicked shut with a final, hollow sound that seemed to echo longer than it should have. For a split second, I wanted to scream at them to open it again, to give me 5 more minutes, 5 more seconds, one more stupid joke, one more off-key song lyric. Instead, I stood there, hands curled into fists at my sides, breathing through the ache. People began filing out in polite clusters, their voices low and careful now. No more open whispering, no more dramatic sighs about eternal damnation, just the quiet shuffle of coats and uncomfortable eye contact. Funny how fast conviction dissolves when it's challenged out loud. Adrian approached me again once most of the room had emptied. I'm sorry, he said softly. For what? For not telling you sooner. I didn't realize people were reacting like this. You didn't do anything, I replied. Apparently he committed the unforgivable act of being affectionate. Adrian gave a weak smile. That sounds like him. We stood in silence for a moment. He talked about you constantly, Adrian added. You know that, right? I swallowed. About what? Everything. Your job, your apartment. That time you yelled at him for trying to install a ceiling fan without turning the power off. I almost laughed. He deserved that. He was proud of you, Adrian said. Not in a bragging way, in a soft way, like he couldn't believe he'd made someone that strong. The lump in my throat turned into something heavier. Strong. If he could see me today, he'd probably say I overdid it with the public speech. Or maybe he'd high-five me. Outside, the sky had shifted to that washed-out gray that makes everything feel suspended. The burial was small, family only, or at least what counted as family after today. Uncle David stood stiffly near the front as the pastor read a few final words about grace and forgiveness. The irony didn't escape me. Grace. It was always easy to preach, harder to practice. As dirt began hitting the casket lid, my mom let out a quiet, broken sound. I instinctively reached for her hand. She held on tighter than she had in years. After the burial, people lingered again, unsure how to transition back into normal life. The scandal had burned through its oxygen. Now there was just grief left. Maya approached me cautiously. I shouldn't have said it like that, she repeated. At the funeral, it was cruel. Yes, I said simply. She nodded, accepting it. I grew up hearing that stuff was black and white, she continued. Sin or not sin, heaven or hell. I didn't realize how ugly it sounds when you say it about someone you actually know. I studied her face. She looked shaken. Not defensive, not righteous. Shaken. Maybe that's the point, I said. Maybe it's supposed to sound ugly. She exhaled slowly. I don't know what I believe anymore. Good, I replied gently. Start there. She gave a small, uncertain smile. Over the next few days, the video spread further. Of course it did. Small towns treat mild controversy like a sport. I saw it reposted with captions like, shocking behavior from beloved local man, and the truth always comes out. I reported them all. Adrian posted the full video instead of the clipped 10 seconds everyone was obsessing over. In it, my dad hugged nearly every person at the party. He told 3 different people he loved them. He attempted to slow dance with a coat rack. The kiss wasn't scandalous in context. It was sloppy, brief, surrounded by laughter. But context doesn't trend. I wrote something too. Not a rant, not a defense, just a memory. I posted a photo of Dad teaching me to ride a bike, one hand steady on the seat, the other shielding his eyes from the sun. Caption: he loved loudly. That's the only scandal. The responses surprised me. Old coworkers commented about how he'd stayed late to help them when they were struggling. A neighbor wrote about how he'd shoveled her driveway every winter without being asked. One of Maya's church friends privately messaged me to say she didn't think the video meant what people were claiming, but she was too afraid to say it publicly. Afraid. That word stuck with me. Afraid of what? Being judged? Being associated? Being questioned? It was easier to condemn than to risk contamination. A week after the funeral, Uncle David showed up at my apartment unannounced. I opened the door, startled. He looked older, smaller. Can I come in? He asked. I stepped aside. He stood awkwardly in my living room, staring at the framed photos on the wall. One of Dad holding me on his shoulders at a county fair. I've been thinking, he said finally. That's dangerous, I replied dryly. A faint smile twitched at the corner of his mouth. I reacted badly, he admitted. I let fear take over. Fear of what? He hesitated. What it meant. And what did it mean? I asked. He rubbed the back of his neck. I don't know. That maybe I didn't know my own brother. That maybe there was a part of him I never saw. There are parts of everyone you never see, I said. That doesn't make them evil. He nodded slowly. We grew up in a house where that kind of thing was not okay, he continued. I think I panicked. I softened slightly. He was drunk, David. He kissed his friend. He didn't burn down a church. I know that, he said quickly. Logically, I know that. But undoing years of conditioning isn't instant. There it was. Honesty. I don't want the last thing I felt about him to be disgust, he said quietly. Then change it, I replied. He looked at me for a long moment. I'm sorry, he said, for what I said at the funeral. I nodded. I loved him, he added. I know. A few days later, Maya texted me. I watched the full video. I stared at the message. Okay, I replied. It wasn't what I thought. It rarely is. There was a long pause before another message appeared. I've been questioning a lot this week. I didn't respond immediately. I wasn't responsible for reconstructing her belief system. Another text. Do you think loving someone can ever be wrong? I typed, deleted, typed again. I think weaponizing love is wrong. I don't think expressing it is. The dots blinked for a long time. I'm sorry I reduced your dad to one moment, she wrote. That one hit differently. Not, I'm sorry I hurt you. I'm sorry I reduced him. That was closer to the truth. Weeks passed. The noise died down. Scandals need constant fuel. Without it, they starve. Life didn't magically become simple. Grief settled into quieter corners, showing up in grocery store aisles when I reached for his favorite cereal, or in my car when a song he used to butcher came on the radio. But something else had shifted too. At a family dinner a month later, Uncle David raised his glass before anyone else could start grace. To my brother, he said gruffly, who loved too much, apparently. A few awkward laughs. And maybe that's not the worst thing, he added. It wasn't a speech. It wasn't a dramatic transformation, but it was something. My mom started therapy. She admitted to me one evening that her anger about the video had more to do with her own guilt than anything else. I left when things got hard, she said. Seeing him happy, even drunkenly happy, felt like a betrayal. He was allowed to cope, I said gently. I know that now. Growth is slow, messy, not linear, but it was happening. One evening, months later, I visited his grave alone. The headstone was simple, clean. I sat down on the grass. You caused a lot of drama, you know that? I said to the air. The wind rustled the trees like quiet laughter. I punched Maya, I added. Not my finest moment. I imagined him raising an eyebrow. I'm working on it, I said. I traced the letters of his name with my fingers. They had tried to reduce him to a 10-second clip, to a rumor, to a condemnation. But memory is stronger than that. He was the man who stayed up all night helping me study for exams. The man who cried at my graduation. The man who hugged his friends without hesitation. If heaven exists and it has a problem with that, then heaven needs to rethink some things. I stood up, brushing grass off my jeans. As I walked back to my car, I realized something unexpected. The fury that had consumed me at the funeral wasn't burning anymore. It had transformed into clarity, into boundaries, into the refusal to let anyone, friend, family, church, or stranger, rewrite someone I loved into a villain because they were uncomfortable with softness. If that funeral taught me anything, it's this. People will twist affection into sin if it challenges the boxes they've built their identities around. But boxes are fragile. Love isn't. And my dad? He loved loudly. I think that's exactly how he'd want to be remembered.